Hello everyone, welcome to It's Complicated. My name is Carlos, and today I'm going to be sharing with you the Zenith Chronomaster El Primero Grande date with moon phase and 24-hour indicator. This, in my opinion, is not only the best El Primero watch ever made, but it also happens to be my grail, and now it's finally mine. So with that said, let's take a close look at this watch and let's talk about the case and the fit and finish. This case is obviously a tank. However, I have to say that the satination and the polishing on this case is mind-blowing. You know, this Zenith is just insane. The satination is brushed, but the brushing is so fine and so nicely done that you can't almost tell that it's brushing. It just looks different. It looks more satin. It doesn't look as rough. It's like a brushing that is super defined. I don't think Zenith uses black polish, but you know, I've handled Grand Seikos before with the Saratsu polishing, and the polishing on this watch, it is not second to those. It has to be on par. I mean, it is mirror finish. So not only do you have these beautiful bevels, this beautiful brushing, you have the signed crown with that beautiful Zenith star, but then you have this beautiful bezel that it's basically just polish, holding what in my mind is the most impressive sapphire crystal I've ever seen. I mean, it looks like an old school acrylic. It just has that bubbly, rounded feel to the edges. Then we have the piston style pushers that honestly just look beautiful and just feel super crisp when you activate them. Man, I mean, it's really beautiful, and it's the first time that I've had a watch where I look at the finish and I'm all like, oh my God, this definitely feels next level. This watch by all means just feels artisanal. So let's take a look at the dial. And when you look at the dial, you're almost like, what dial? Because the dial is actually several layers of sapphire crystal stacked on top of each other. And on one of those layers, you have the Zenith El Primero branding, which seems to kind of just float in the middle between the movement and the glass and looks fantastic. And then you have this beautiful printed frame to just show you where to look for the date. Then my second favorite part of the dial, honestly, it is that moon phase that almost seems to be in like a little pantry dish made out of sapphire in between the dial and the crystal, and just has thickness. I mean, it is just gorgeous and brings so much depth to the dial. Then behind the moon, you see the coolest part of the complication, which is the changing sky. And I love this part because you actually see a transition from this beautiful orange yellow during the day to this beautiful kind of dark blue with almost gold painted stars at night. And there's something that is just so magical about this 24-hour dial because it's all just, it looks hand painted. Like I know it's probably not an artisanal piece, but who cares? Like, it feels artisanal. It has that power to it. And of course, we have the moon phase. The moon has beautiful texture on it when you look at it up close. And then the clouds that cover the moon are just beautifully frosted. So it's almost like you have frosted glass that makes up the clouds. Then you have these beautiful markers on the outside that are beautifully polished. Once again, the polishing in this watch is just insane. The inner dials for the chronograph, the minutes and the seconds, are two distinct colors, but are also beautifully printed on top of the sapphire with like a really nice, grainy, almost three-dimensional texture. It's just a complete knockout. One of my favorite parts of the dials, of course, is the hands, because we're dealing with an open dial here, and those are historically bad in the readability. However, Zenith, being the masters that they are, they put these beautiful hands that are kind of double finished. You have this beautiful loom, and then you have polish on the outer part of the hands, and then you have a black stripe that has been carefully painted down the middle of the hands to create the ultimate contrast so that you can read the time all the time. So let's talk about the caliber and what you see inside. And honestly, the caliber and what you see is just on another level compared to any other watch under $6,000. Like, I think that this movement is just phenomenal. First of all, you have tons of satination on the flat parts of the movement, and almost every single edge of this movement has been beveled and polished, which means that when you're outside in the day or you're driving and the sun hits your watch, there is just fireflies of sparkles everywhere inside of that movement. And of course, you can always see that beautiful balance wheel just running at that 36,000 BPH. And I mean, there is just so much to see in this watch. Every time that you look at it, you're discovering something new, and it is just such an incredible joy and privilege to get to look at this thing every day. But anyways, let's talk a little bit about the chronograph. We have the beautiful second hand that, as I said, ticks 10 times per second, has a little bit of a dot of paint at the very end. The visibility of the second hand and the other chronograph hands does suffer from the skeletonization, but to be honest, who cares? I can tell the time, and looking at this movement from the front, it's just so beautiful. So other than the second hand, we have the minute hand off to the side, which has a nice little red marker, and it clicks every time a full minute goes. So it's not like a progressive click. It actually is almost like a jump minute hand per se. And then we have the second hand off to the side that is also ticking 10 times per second and just gliding smoothly to show us the time passed by. You know, when buying this watch and spending 4 years looking at it, I wasn't necessarily sure that I was gonna be able to find one with the original bracelet, but I was able to find the metal bracelet, and that was a super plus for me because I was very excited to see what one of the best watchmakers in the world could actually do with a bracelet at this price range. And you know what? I am not disappointed. I've dealt with bracelets from micro brands that we consider to be phenomenal bracelets, but I think that most of us think that any bracelet with screws instead of pins or pins and collars is already next level. And then you hold a watch like this and then you realize like, oh my God, no, this is next level. Let's start with these screws that we celebrate so much in these micro brands. And this is one of the first places where you can see the difference in the attention to detail. First, we have the holes themselves where the screws go are also beveled and polished. It's just insanity. Then the screws that they use is actually two screw heads that sort of meet in the middle. So the likelihood of having one of the screws come out is just not very likely. The rest of the bracelet is also incredibly impressive. I mean, this is where you really get to appreciate that satin-like brushing that Zenith used, along with like the high level of polishing. The bracelet is almost like an oyster style bracelet. However, it might be a little bit more stiff near the lugs because it definitely holds its shape. However, it is super comfortable and it doesn't pull any hairs. The clasp, to my surprise, was also incredibly nice. It is a butterfly clasp that has the Zenith branding on both sides of the clasp, but the thing that really surprised me about this clasp was that Zenith included more than enough half links to really allow you to get a good fit, and I did. I got a perfect fit for this watch. Alright, so even though I've already mentioned the price of this watch, I do think that there is some room to maybe talk about, you know, what it means to be able to get a watch like this for $6,000. And honestly, I think that you can get one if you're interested with box and papers for just a little bit more, like $7,000 or $8,000 is pretty common for this particular watch. So if you're able to get a really good sample around that price, or maybe for a couple of grand more, honestly, I still don't think that there's any chronometer that you can get your hands on right now that matches this. Obviously, the Daytona is much more expensive. I feel like they start around $13,000, and in the secondary market, they're even more expensive, $30,000, $60,000. Like it's nuts. And you can probably get a Speedmaster Pro, but I just don't think that the Speedmaster Pro can really hold a candle to this particular watch due to just like the amazing, beautiful complications that you get on top of the chronograph, on top of those 5 hertz. Like, I just don't think that the Speedy is in the same horological level as this Zenith. I think that the only chronograph that potentially comes close to this particular Zenith in my heart is the Blancpain Bathyscaphe flyback chronograph. That flyback mechanism is incredibly complicated. The finishing on that movement is just out of this world, and you get that beautiful ionized white gold rotor. That watch is just bunkers. However, if you're lucky, you can probably get that on the secondary market for around $10,000. So you're still paying quite a bit more for something like the Bathyscaphe. But I'm not necessarily sure that the Bathyscaphe beats this one. Like, they're just so different that honestly, I would love to own both. Okay, so let's wrap this up with likes and dislikes. Likes, freaking everything about this watch. Like, this has literally been my grail for 4 years. Not only that, this is my first grail that I've been able to actually purchase. This watch is literally perfect for me. Like, I love everything about it. Like, it's a watch that I'm so proud and I feel so privileged to be able to wear. And there's not really any other way to explain it. Dislikes, we have to be fair. No watch is perfect. This movement has basically 2 quirks that most people probably wouldn't expect for a watch of this heritage and this value. The first one being, there's no hacking in this watch. And I know that I am a big hacking snob, but honestly, I don't care. And I probably sound like a hypocrite when I say this, but with this watch, I truly don't care. It's like my love completely like, I don't care that it doesn't hack. Like, it's fine. The second hand doesn't have to line up with my iPhone. It's not a big deal. The other thing that might be a little annoying or surprising to chronograph enthusiasts that have never handled the El Primero is that the clutch is antique. And what this means is that sometimes the second hand will jump when you initiate the chronograph. It doesn't jump a lot, but it's a quirk of the El Primero. You gotta understand that column wheels were all the rage, but the clutches just weren't there. The vertical clutches and horizontal clutches and all the different ways that they do to sort of like reset the second hand and allow it to start going. Like, all of those mechanisms were different back in the 60s. I believe that the new ones do have updated clutches and they do have hacking. So this is not something that's true across the modern line of the El Primeros, but it's something to know about the old classic El Primeros. But you know, as I said, for me, these are not even dislikes. They're just things, they're quirks, they're part of the history, they're a moment in time. And as I said, you know, the thing that I love about this watch is that Speedmaster, Daytona, you can't really argue that those watches are any better than this. You can argue that you like them more, but horologically, historically, prestige-wise, this watch is right there with all of those. So I don't care. I simply don't care. I love it. All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video. That's it for me today. Thank you for letting me share my Grail watch with you. I don't know if you can tell, but this is a watch that just makes me so incredibly happy. But if you get a chance, please let me know, what is your Grail watch? Share your Grail watch story with me, whether it's something that you're looking forward to purchase or something that seems unattainable, or maybe something that you've had for a long time, or something that was handed down to you that you just love. Let me know about that. I want to hear those stories from you too. And if you enjoyed this video, just take a second and like it and subscribe. I'm trying to monetize the channel and I'm not at 1,000 subs yet. So if you could help me hit the 1,000 subs mark, I would really appreciate it. Thank you very much for joining me in this video, and I truly do hope to see you on the next one. See ya.